This is a wonderful, wonderful story told by a wonderful, wonderful storyteller. Please welcome to the stage Ebony Bennett.
When I started my second year of university, the year I turned 20, I had one goal in mind. I had a secret desire that I hadn't really told any of my close friends about. Not to get high distinctions, not to do anything outlandish or crazy. I really just wanted one thing more than anything else, and that was to get my heart broken. Not to fall in love, but to get my heart broken, because up until that point, I was the friend amongst our group of friends who they would come to when their relationships broke up. I was the shoulder to cry on, and I was completely unqualified for the job. I was hopeless at giving advice because I'd never been in love myself. I didn't get it. And so I would give them unhelpful advice. I realise now it was totally unhelpful. Like, just get over it. Because I loved being single. I was having a great time, even though I was totally hopeless at picking guys, that would last. I just thought it was great, and I was having a great time, and so I was like, there's plenty more fish in the sea. Just come out. You'll find a new bloke. Like, why would you want to stay with someone who doesn't want to be with you? Why on earth would you go back to somebody who has cheated on you? And so I would go through all of these motions, and I'd seen all the romantic comedies. I knew what I was supposed to do, and provide tissues and chocolate, and we would watch endless reruns of Bridget Jones' Diary, and I would take them out dancing to take their mind off things, and then when their song came on and they burst into tears, I would take them home again. And I really tried, but I wasn't being very helpful, and it felt to me like we'd all watched the same romantic comedies and we were just reenacting a series of breakup cliches together, because that's what we'd been taught to do. And so secretly I also wanted to get my heart broken, because I was a little bit smug. There's no way I would take back someone who had cheated on me. I wouldn't do that to myself. I had more self-worth than that. And I would never be so broken up over somebody, I really thought that if I got my heart broken, that would, vindicate my how I thought about myself and everything that I thought that I knew about how I would react. But, at this point I hadn't fallen in love, and so I was giving terrible advice, and so I hadn't fallen in love until my second year of university, when I met Camillo Prieto was a foreign exchange student from Colombia who was terribly exotic and had chosen to study in the exotic city of Canberra, which was where I was studying. And so we all lived on student residences, resis we called it, in University Village, which was a collection of 4 blocks of basically, they were just like giant rectangles with corrugated iron. I think they were supposed to be temporary, but they became permanent because University of Canberra, it's basically a glorified TAFE, and they couldn't really afford anything extra. But there was, 12 of us per block. I lived in front block, Cam lived in side block, not in the creatively named other side block that we had. And there was also top block, and there was about, I guess, maybe 60 to 80 of us who all hung out together. And Cam was always, the life of the party. He was incredibly charming, he was cute, he was a great dancer, he was an outrageous flirt. And he had a great accent, and he was universally loved, basically. Everyone loved Cam, and I didn't really know him that well. He was just kind of part of the group for most of the year, but throughout the year we got closer and closer, and then one weekend I decided, you know what, I'm going to be a really great friend to this guy. He's stuck in Canberra. I'm going to take him home to the coast where my parents live. He'll get to see the beach. I'll take him to Narra Animal Park, which is, it's basically Taronga Zoo, but on the Shoalhaven River. And so I was like, please, come home with me. You'll get to see the you'll get to see the coast. It'll be great. It'll get you out of Canberra. And he was like, oh, no, I couldn't possibly. That's too much trouble. Don't worry about it. And I was like, nonsense. It's no trouble at all. My parents will love to meet you. You know, you're going to have a great time. Just get out of Canberra for the weekend. And so I took him home and he met all my family and we had a great time. I took him to the beach. It was beautiful. We went to Narra Animal Park and it was like I had phoned ahead and all the animals just came out to do their thing. Like, you know, we fed kangaroos and he had a python around his neck and the koalas were eating instead of sleeping and the wombats, like it was fantastic. We had this great weekend and basically by the end of it we were friends. And it was only later that I discovered that he wasn't actually being polite. He really didn't want to come home with me for the weekend. But the result of it was, in my persistence, that we were really good friends. By the end of the year, we were kind of best friends. You know, we'd been confiding in one another more and more. And then one night, in the last week of university, we were out one night and we were dancing and then kind of, you know, friendly flirting turned to flirting, and all of a sudden kind of Cam was giving me sex eyes and he grabbed my arm and he grabbed a pen and he started drawing a little stick figure on my arm. And he said to me, this is the guy that you're taking home tonight. And I was like, oh, really? And yes, he's got curly hair and brown eyes and he's a good dancer, and became obvious that Cam was talking about himself. And not to be outdone, I grabbed Cam's arm and proceeded to draw a stick figure of the short fun blonde that he was going to be taking home, and we danced a little more and made googly eyes at one another, and then very romantically we all jumped in the maxi taxi back to Belconnen with about 7 other people. And then, you know, instead of going into front block where I lived, I followed Cam to side block and I went to his room and I kissed him and we spent the night together. And within a week, I had totally fallen in love with Cam. I was head over heels, and it was the beginning of what was, until that point, the greatest summer of my life. You know, within weeks, we were calling one another schmoopy. At first we were being ironic, but then later on it kind of turned into a thing, and he would teach me, you know, swear words in Spanish, and we would go jogging and on picnics together, and he wrote me honest to God love letters, and I took him home again for Christmas, and we had a Bennett family Christmas where he withstood, you know, with very great humour, all the drug dealing jokes that my family made, and he taught them Spanish words as well. And then, you know, at one point I think we made him sing La Bamba on karaoke, and he was great about the whole thing. And I was totally, I felt like I was in my own romantic comedy at this point. I dubbed it the Summer of Love, even though Cam didn't want to put a label on it. And, you know, we had this magnificent summer together. We spent all our time together, and then it was time to go back to university. And so we were moving back onto Resi's again, same block, same room. And within the first week, he cheated on me. He kissed the girl who lived in the room next door to mine. And I was there. I witnessed the whole thing, and I was devastated. I was completely heartbroken, and I didn't know what to do with myself. I'd never felt so bad in my entire life. I would get into the shower every morning, and as soon as the water hit my face, I would just burst into tears and cry until, you know, I'd washed the conditioner out. I was a complete wreck. I would go wandering around Belconnen Mall pretending to shop, but in actual fact I couldn't see through the tears in my eyes because the No Doubt song playing had clearly been written specifically for me. And, you know, I would avoid him at all costs, but monitor his movements obsessively, because from front block I could see both exits to side block where Cam lived. And so, you know, I avoided him for weeks, and you know, to my absolute horror, I was reenacting every cliche that I thought that I would never do in a million years, and it was terrible. I felt like I didn't know myself at all, and then one night, after weeks and weeks of not talking to Cam, not seeing him, I got this message on my phone, and it just said, "Hola, Ebby, I miss you." And it was at that point that I knew that something had to change in my life, and that really meant only one thing. it was time for me to get back with Cam. That was clearly my only resort. And so I went to all of my friends and I just said, look, I think I really want to get back with Cam. And they gave me completely unhelpful advice, the advice that I had used to give them. Get over it. Ebony, you are being an idiot. Why on earth would you get back with Cam when he has cheated on you? That is the most stupid thing. You're smarter than that. Why would you do that? But that was not the advice that I wanted at all. So I basically went friend shopping until I found a friend, a very good friend of mine, who had also had her heart broken and knew what I was feeling. And she gave me this look like, I know that you know that you're being an idiot. But she didn't say that. She just said, Ebony, do what makes you happy. And that was exactly the advice that I wanted, because I thought what was going to make me happy was getting back with Cam. So that was kind of the summer that I found out that I was not a unique snowflake. I was exactly like everybody else, and that Cam had broken my heart into a million pieces, and for that I would always love him, but not more than I love all of my beautiful friends who gave me exactly the right advice when I needed it. Thank you.
Ebony Bennett.